Hi, everybody. Adrian Fuentes here. Did you know that the Democrats of Greater Tucson has a website, thedgt.org, and if you subscribe, it's only 20 bucks. You can support this great weekly communication where folks get together. Sometimes there's candidates, sometimes folks like me pop on to help understand what's going on in the world. The Democrats of Greater Tucson, thedgt.org. Join up today.
Okay, well, we have two people, and we're blessed to have them today, and that's Keith Seaman and Stacy Seaman. We're really looking forward to a great program. Keith is running for re-election to the Arizona House, and Stacy really stood up and did us a big favor in running, and she's a great candidate for the state Senate. We've got a little tag team going with Kevin and Stacy, or sorry, Keith.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another district.
Yeah. So thanks so much for getting your bios to us. We posted them in our weekly newsletter. And since we have the two of you, I thought it'd be nice to if you did a little intro referring to your bio as much as you'd like. So who would like to go first?
I'll start since I'm the older of the two. Yeah, I'm finishing my first term, as you said. I was an educator in Arizona for over 40 years, and so obviously public education was my passion. I taught for a long time for 12 up in Lake Havasu City High School, where we began our career in Arizona. Then I was appointed to the Mojave County School Superintendent and served there for 6 years. And then I was at that time I was appointed. There were Democrats up there, but the election lost by 19 votes to a Republican. Took over a charter school in Lake Havasu, and then my last career before I retired was principal at Santa Rosa boarding school on the Tohono O'odham Nation. So it gave me lots of experience as a teacher, as a principal, superintendent. And then I was also elected to the Coolidge School Board. I live in the Coolidge School District for 4 years before I got this position. So I would say my education experience is everywhere, is from student, because Stacey was a student, all the way to superintendent. So that's my passion. So I saw in 2022 that no one was taking up the gauntlet, whatever it is, gauntlet for our party. So I said I will do it, and was elected a long time for help for you guys in Pima County. As you know, they changed the district as they do every 10 years, and I was honored to get about I don't know how many precincts, but thousands of votes, constituents from about Grant Road over to the Tucson Mountain Estates. And I hope some of you are in that area. Anyway, I love all you guys, and they worked really, really hard, as all the Democrats did in the entire new district, to get me elected. To everybody's surprise, even my own, because as you know, just Pinal County has been taken over by Republicans the last several years, and nobody thought that a Democrat could make it. But because our tireless efforts, all the way from the district from Maricopa City to the Gila River Indian community, the voters in your part of District 16, and just constant canvass and caucuses, we made it. And again, as I said, my public education is my passion, but right in the middle of my campaign in 22, Roe v. Wade was pulled down. So that became an issue as well, pro-choice. Then, of course, the border became an issue. Affordable housing is what we work for. I was the 29th Democrat to get in the Democratic caucus. Unfortunately, we needed two more, 31, to get the majority. So the last 2 years, that's been our promise. Our goal is to get those two more, obviously not lose anymore, to get 31 to control the House. Then we can control the agenda. I sit on the Transportation Committee and the LOR, which is Land, Agriculture, Rural Affairs, which for me in a rural district is perfect. So I was able to work on infrastructure throughout the state, throughout our district, and on issues that are important to the infrastructure and the transportation and rural affairs in the district. The campaign's going really, really well. It's exciting. We're tired. Matter of fact, I was in Tucson yesterday in District 16 out there on Silver Bell and Shannon, where the district kind of starts. So we have people in 16 in Tucson. Maybe some of you are here that canvass every day, almost every weekend. SOS involved both our campaigns. We've been endorsed by all the unions, the SOS, AEA, all the Democratic organization, your guys, everything. So the campaign's going as well as we can, and we're seeing some good results. So with that, I'll let Stacy talk about what she's about.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, welcome both of you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Stacey Seaman. I'm running for Arizona State Senate in LD 16. And I also wanted to start out by thanking you so much for having us here today so we could talk a little about our campaign. And as you can tell, I grew up in a household inspired through Democratic service, also service in general. My dad being a teacher and my mom is a retired healthcare worker. I always like to say I won the parent lottery. It's the absolute truth. And we had one rule in our house: if you can help somebody, then do it. I followed my dad's footsteps. I didn't really like blood, so I didn't go into healthcare. I went into education. I actually got my teaching degree, my bachelor's from U of A.
Yay.
Go Cats. And my first teaching job was down in Tucson in the Catalina Foothills District. I taught down there for 4 years, loved it. Great district, great kids, great parents. And then I moved to Casa Grande when an opportunity opened up here. And at that time, my dad was still out on the Tohono Reservation. And eventually we all ended up here. So it kind of just worked out that way. I taught public school in Casa Grande for 12 years. And then I ended up moving out to Central Arizona College, which is just right up the road from us. And I taught as a full professor of music there for 5 years. Oh, I'm a musician. I teach music.
By the way, yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
And then eventually I moved into my current position at CAC, which is more of a management position. I manage our Fine Arts Center on the campus here in Coolidge. I never thought, if you'd asked me a year ago, if I would be in this position right now, the answer would have been no. I had already been asked at that point to run for the Senate, and I just didn't feel at that point that I was really ready to do this. I had seen my dad do it, of course, and helped out extensively in his campaign, and I knew that I wanted to try it sometime in the future. But being involved in my church, full-time job, and I'm also working on my doctoral dissertation at the moment, I felt like I just had too much on my plate. And so I declined. And as we got closer and closer to the deadline for filing on April 1st, I watched as the Democrats here in District 16 tried to find somebody to run for the Senate position. And I couldn't wait to see who's it going to be, who can we get behind and support. Well, as we got closer and closer and they didn't find anybody, I realized one day, oh, it's me. And so I stepped up and got filed very close to the deadline. I think we got all of my signatures in about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am. And I am so excited about the decision. It's been an amazing experience. And I've learned so much. It's so humbling to work with all of the Democrats in Pinal County, down there in Pima County, up in Maricopa County, everyone throughout the state who's really rooting for us and trying to make sure that we can work hard to flip our seats. So here we are.
And we're glad. We're glad you're here. We'll go right to question and answers if that's okay. We've got a good sized turnout today, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good questions. Mike Bryan.
Yeah, I got a nice quick question that'll take a long time to answer. What is the buzz in the Democratic caucus for our agenda if we in fact take the majority this year? What are Democrats going to accomplish next year if we're able to put it over the top this year?
Good
My,
question.
I think the word is win. Hopefully,
When?
we're going to continue our work on the funding of the public schools, regardless of the vouchers. But there is a very active education caucus, and the caucus wants to get the money back from where it is to fund the public school. We have a problem with teacher leaving, and the biggest reason for that is the salary. They can't live on the teacher's salary. As you know, a lot of teachers have to work a second job to support their mortgage and their family. And the respect, not just the salary, but the respect. What they're getting from the Republican majority is that teachers are not respected. They're mandating certain things they must do as a teachers, besides the wonderful work they're doing on the curriculum and in the reading and the writing. We are unfortunately 49th in the state now for public education for a lot of reasons. Now let's go to the elephant, pardon the pun, under the table. Why we're in that ridiculous situation? Because of the ESAs. We have tried as the Democratic caucus to chip away at that wall to no avail. The Republicans it's like a sacred cow to them. Matter of fact, Ben Toma, who will no longer be the Speaker of the House, that's his child, his baby. And as long as he was the Speaker, nothing we did, and we tried to get anything away from that voucher, that $1 million boondoggle that's taking the money away from public schools. We as Democrats don't really want it to go away completely because there's a need for that. But what's happened now, that's almost $1 billion a year taken away from our taxes that should go, or at least part of that should go into the public schools. The money is one thing, but then the accountability is something else. We don't know what they're teaching. We as public school teachers have to do certain things. We have to be certified, we have to have fingerprints, all these things. That's not happening in the ESAs. It might be happening in the private schools, but those who get the $7,000 per child, we don't know what they're doing. And you've heard the same thing we've heard. Most recent ridiculous thing, somebody's asking about a flat earth curriculum. Can they teach that under the vouchers? The dune buggy, you've heard about that. We as Democrats can understand, especially those who teachers, why a dune buggy would be needed for a curriculum. You know, those bounce castles. It would be nice if we had those, but
Physics.
why is the public paying for those kind of things where we need to have that money in the overcrowded classroom, the classroom that can't get materials, the classroom that can't get certified teachers because there's not enough money. So yeah, you're right. It's a long answer. So I think one of the first things we will do when we get in the majority is to look at that proposal. Look at that. What can we do, hopefully with some Republican help, to cut that down, make it more livable.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing we're probably going to do is work more on affordable housing. That was one of our Democratic goals this last year. We got a little bit, but we did work more on that. Luckily, we have some Democratic colleagues who want to do that as well, but their way of doing that is to go into the cities, make the cities change their planning and zoning to put affordable housing in there. I didn't support that in most cases because I got a lot of feedback from Maricopa City, Casa Grande, Coolidge, Tucson. All my cities say, hey, we have worked years on this planning and zoning. Now, why is the legislature come in and say, you have to change all this to put houses in there? My voice on that, and I've talked to my colleagues, is in future planning and zoning, let's plan on housing, affordable housing. And some cities are doing that, but not just all of a sudden take that away. You can no longer do that. For example, other than Tucson, Maricopa is our next largest city, over 75,000. And that's what the Republicans have said. All those cities with 75,000 people or more must then change their planning to add affordable housing. And so there's some group working on, we want affordable housing. We know there's a need. People can't afford housing anymore. So let's bring some of that cost down. Environment, the water is very important. I've attended several meetings of the Tucson Water Board and what's going on in Tucson, because that's my biggest city here, what you guys are doing with water, with Representative Stall Hamilton and Chris Mathis, Senator Santa Rosa, what I call the water gurus in the legislature. They have good plans how we're going to do the water. but we keep getting knocked down on that. Representative Griffin down in the southern part of the state doesn't want anything to do with any of our ideas on water. So we're going to try to do something that is fair, equal to all the water users. So those are three of the things that we're concerned about, and a myriad of others when we get the majority.
There you go. There you go. And Democrats, you may be aware of this, but LD 16 is one of 3 LDs in Southern Arizona where we think we can pick up some seats.
Yeah, ADLCC is playing there. ADLCC is working there.
Oh yeah.
Right, in 16, 17, and 23. And as Democrats of Greater Tucson, we were able to make a contribution to your campaigns. I hope that Walt was taken care of. And we also made an equal contribution to LD 23 and then LD 17. So lots of good stuff going on. There's some really great momentum. And I think we're going to have some more questions. Steve Linder has a question.
Along with what Joe's saying about support for you, I was very pleased to see, Stacy, that your dad, I saw him on a commercial on television yesterday for the first time. So they are investing. I think that you're probably going to have a harder time in the Senate race. So can you give us some background into the logistics of 16 as far as, what's the breakdown between registrations and what kind of reaction you're getting as you canvass when you speak to independents? I mean, I know the Democrats, you got them, but but when you speak to independents and Republicans, when you go door to door, and I believe you're running against Shope. Is that
Yes,
the guy? Yeah. Well, good luck. So give us some background into what's happening just during when you campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question, actually. So our district didn't become fully competitive until 2022 with the redistricting, when they gerrymandered and basically cut apart pieces of Tucson. And while that was not great for perhaps Greater Tucson, it actually helped our district. We gained that little sliver that goes down through Picture Rocks and into Tucson Estates and Flowing Wells and into our district, and it gave us an influx of more Democratic and left-leaning independent voters. And so our district now stands, Republicans are still the biggest voting bloc, but it's at about a third Republicans. Then the next biggest is approximately a third independent, and then a third Democrat. So as you say, getting those independent votes is very important in our district. But that change of districting is one of the reasons why my dad was able to win in 2022. He was the first Democrat elected in our district in over 30 years.
Ooh.
And so it was really exciting when that happened. But yeah, we have been working on, Democrats in our district have been working on challenging the incumbent, TJ Shope, ever since he first got elected 12 years ago. He started out in the Arizona House of Representatives, and then he moved over to the Senate. When
he was termed out.
Sorry, of course, yes. When he was first elected, he ran as a moderate Republican. And 12 years ago, that's possible that there was such a thing. However, every single session since then, he has drifted more and more to the MAGA right, to the point that in this last session, the last 2 years, he has voted almost exclusively with the far right MAGA caucus. So the challenge in our district is twofold. One is helping voters understand that he does not have the same values that perhaps they think he does and that he had when he was elected. And number two is doing that in a way that does not directly combat his good boy image in our district. It's a very, very delicate line to walk to help voters understand that he's not the same person that he was before, that he has definitely changed, and it's time for new leadership in our district. One of the biggest things that I hear at the independent doors when we start talking about local politics is how they feel like no matter who's elected locally, nothing changes for us in the district. And one of the biggest conversations that I have with them is that, well, if you keep electing the same people, then nothing is going to change. If you keep electing the same ideology every time, it's going to be the same. I don't say this at the doors, but there's a great quote of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So helping them realize that is one of the biggest things. And some of the people at the doors definitely understand it. They definitely get it. They're ready for change, especially when we can take the focus off of what's happening at the national level and hyper focus it on Arizona and especially our district. What changes can be made if we can get a Democratic legislature? So I hope that answered your question.
Well, there's something else
Oh,
too, and
uh-huh.
I'm sorry, in my district over on the western part, Maricopa City, and for years and years, they've had this problem with State Road 347, which connects Maricopa City up to Riggs Road up there on I-10. Probably not too much, you guys heard about that too much because you're on the other side of the district, but that's a big issue. When I first started going to the doors, especially in that area, what are you going to do about 347? They have probably sent hundreds and hundreds of emails to all the legislators. But as a representative of that, my talk over there, no matter whether the Republican, Independent, Democrat, that's their biggest issue. And so luckily, I can tell them I sit on the transportation committee, and that has come before us. One of my priorities, the Democrats ask throughout the session, okay, what are your budget priorities? Schools, ESAs, abortion, things like that. But mine has always been number one, to fix 347. That's a doable over there. But then this year, because of the budget, it was forwarded to another couple of years. We almost had that done a couple of years ago. So that's the issue over there. They wouldn't care anything about anything else were done except fixing that road. It's the fourth fatalities in the state. If you drive it, you'll see why. All the way across their Indian reservation. So that works over there. The public education, when I see them come to the door and they have little kids, I go right to that. Oh, I see you've got children. What's your concern about the school? And then we start talking about the overcrowded condition, the older schools they work with, the idea that teachers are not being paid and they're leaving. When I was on the Coolidge School Board, we had to hire several Philippine teachers, great people, and they do well, but they're not local. And so because we couldn't get people to work for our small school district at the salary that they could get somewhere else. That's the issue that America, and I talked to a guy last night at a meet and greet in Maricopa who was a teacher. Said it's still happening. They've got Philippine teachers there, and we're not discrediting them at all. They're good. But we can't keep good teachers. There are teachers who are not certified in their subject, teaching something else, and then the discipline at the schools. So those are issues that relate to all people. And not even talking about the ESAs or the vouchers. We're also going on the pro-choice, because a lot of people, whether they're independents, Democrats, or Republicans, have a concern that the government is intruding into their personal beliefs. They may not want an abortion themselves, but they say, well, what am I doing, or what are you guys doing as a legislature or government, telling people that they can't control their own bodies with their doctors? So those are some of the issues that we're working on that we hear throughout the district.
Great questions and great answers. One thing I'll share with you as Stacy, we're kind of outlining some of the concerns and some of the hurdles you have with the incumbent state senator. There was a great book, I believe it was the 90s, and it was called Good to Great. But one of the real key phrases was the brutal facts.
Ooh.
Like you said, this guy's the incumbent state senator. His voting record has gotten MAGA, 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 more MAGA, MAGA, MAGA.
Yeah.
And the folks in that LD need to be made aware of that. Hey,
Right.
You remember Joe Friday from Dragnet, right? Nothing but the
Just the
facts,
Just the
facts.
facts,
right?
man. You know.
Yeah, so these are the brutal facts. He'll try to run away from them, but you can take him to
Yeah.
the house on that one. So just an
That's-
idea.
Thank you. And that sounds like a really good book. I might have to check that out. Good to
Oh,
great.
it is a very good book. Okay, Mike Bryan has his hand up.
My question for Stacy and Keith is, what are you seeing at the doors? What kind of response are you getting at the doors? What issues are resonating with folks? And how much emphasis are you putting on walking this district to win it?
Walking the district is very important. We've got people walking the district almost every day. Matter of fact, before this call, I got a call from somebody I don't even know, which I couldn't know about it because they're independent. Said they have a canvas every day, except 5 days a week. Every day, thousands of people. Well, not people working the canvas, but talking to, which I appreciate. SOS has taken over Saturdays. AEA is working with us. Labor unions are working with us. Paramount Plus, which we're paying for by ADLCC. So we're getting a lot of people help. And I really appreciate that, which shows us they need a change. Like Stacey talked about, well, somebody else, because they believe in the democratic values that we're trying to propose. So it's been really good.
Well,
If I
that's great to hear.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great ground game, and that just could be one of our secret weapons. It's not a big secret, but you don't see a lot of Republicans in our turf that are doing a lot of ground game, a lot of canvassing. And
No, they're struggling to hire people. In fact, they're trying to poach our canvassers. In fact, they'll approach canvassers in the field and say,
interesting.
"We're hiring X number of dollars per hour. Go up to volunteers and ask to get them to hire on."
Wow.
Anyways, Stacy, you had something to say about
that. Sounds pretty
about that.
desperate.
It is.
I did. If just to add on to that, coming into this entire thing, I was always politically aware from a distance before a couple years ago when I helped my dad with his campaign. And one of the biggest shocks for me when we ran his campaign in 2022 was how important it was for the candidate and for others to go and knock on doors. I had no idea, just as this random person who followed politics, that that's going to make the difference. And I feel really strongly in all of the Democratic campaigns that I've seen, the Democrats, I feel like we're just so fired up. And like you said, we haven't been seeing that. We rarely see Republican literature at the doors. I mean, it's there occasionally.
Well, they know we're Democrat. They won't move right. Other people's doors. We see very little of their stuff. I don't know how many times I've heard in this race, people say, "What? You're the actual candidate? Candidate has never come to my door before." Wow.
Yeah.
And more than once in every canvass, I get that. Wow. So that's heartwarming. That's good. I can't believe that candidates don't do that as part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just
Okay, we do have a question for you. Claire Knipe.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to say hi. This office was from all of us in the Arizona List office in Tucson. We've been listening in as a team. We wanted to ask what folks can do to help you. I know that we've got less than 30 days. You have some portion of Tucson, but what can we be doing to get the two of you over the finish line?
Thank you so much, Claire.
I think we kind of touched on a little bit. If you have some candidates like Nancy Gutierrez and Priya who really don't need the help or who are going to be in there anyway, then send your people to our district or send them to 17 and do some canvassing. That's been happening a lot. I've seen everybody. I've seen Senator Reach in there. Nancy has helped. So do that. Walk a precinct as a canvas. Contact whoever Yeah, Arizona's List. And then if you have some extra money, we're doing reasonably well right in this kind of campaign, but donate some money. If you can't do any of that, which I understand, talk to people in 16. You probably maybe have employees and friends who live in our part of the district. Make sure that they know that there's candidates. In my case, talk about the single shot. Let them know that I'm the only Democrat in that area that vote only for me. If they vote for me and the Republican, I get a vote, but then so does the Republican. That was the strategy that we used with good
Results, yeah.
result last time. So people don't understand it a lot of times, but only vote for me. And you may have other candidates as well. Yeah, up in 17.
Kevin Volk and
Kevin
John
Volk,
McClain.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Only vote for them. So talk that too about your friends. That's a good strategy. Anything?
Wonderful. And Mike Bryan has his hand up.
Yeah, we've got some questions in the chat. Robert Unferth wants to know, he says almost half the citizens of voting age population here in Arizona are of color, nearly a third Latino. How do you approach and recruit these groups in your district, and how much of a priority are you placing on it?
An absolute huge priority. One of the strategic areas that we've targeted that has been traditionally both underserved and underapproached has been Eloy, Arizona, for example. And so through the SOS, we've done canvases the last 3 weekends in Eloy. For those of you not familiar, Eloy is on right off the I-10.
Yeah.
About
on your way to Phoenix, you would have passed it. Go through it, yeah.
Yeah. And it is primarily Latina and Latinos. And we have really worked hard with SOS and with our campaign to make sure that we have literature that's in Spanish, and that when we're walking, we have translators with us. And it's made all of the difference in the world. We have had such an incredible response from the people of Eloy. First of all, saying, gosh, nobody's ever come to our doors before. And number two, being grateful that we are prepared to speak, approach them and speak with them in their language. It's almost like a little democratic stronghold, I would say.
Yeah.
It's been so important. And then another thing as well is in Maricopa. Maricopa City has the highest percentage of people of color in our district. And so, for example, the Maricopa City Dems and then also the NAACP organizations have both been very, very important to us.
Been
And we've been
supportive, right.
supportive and working with them and making sure that we get out and that we're approaching people where they're at, talking with them and understanding, and then helping bring them along. So great question, and absolutely. Oh, and then also the Gila River.
Next Saturday, we're going to do it to a native vote activity on the Gila River,
Right.
which is really good because in my last election, I didn't even go up there, and I got most of the Democratic votes up there.
Yeah.
So we're making an effort
We absolutely have to.
this Saturday go up, and we've even got the governor, and he's invited us to go with him.
The governor of Gila River.
I'm sorry, Governor Gila River, right, right. Katie would too if we asked him, but Governor Lewis to go with us to canvass house by house. He said they probably won't open the door to us, obviously, unless he's there. So we've got an
Yeah.
inroad there as well.
You know, what congressional district is LD 16 in?
Well, that's divided.
Yeah.
There's a road
Right,
about a
yeah.
mile from us which divides Kiscamano, hopefully be Engel. With on our side of the road, we're in 2. That Jonathan Nez hopefully will soon take over.
Yeah.
Now it's Eli Crane who does nothing.
Yeah.
So we're actually in 2.
There's
and
right in half.
And maybe the Tucson district is, yeah, as a matter of fact, where we went yesterday, they live in Raul Grijalva's. So there's actually 3
Right.
involved.
Yeah. So depending on where we're canvassing, we make sure we have literature for the appropriate congressional candidate.
That's great.
That's
That's
in what
great.
we're doing.
So Steve
Okay.
Mizell has another question in the chat. He would like to know what you're doing on social media. And I think that's a good way to segue into how does a state legislative race utilize social media to be most effective? And are you spending anything on social media ads?
Yes. I without getting into too many details that maybe we're not allowed to talk about, I don't know. I would say the majority actually of our budget right now is going towards digital ads, which are playing on social media, streaming television, such as Hulu, you said Paramount, Netflix, etc.
Yeah, but I think you're talking about like Facebook, things like that as well.
Well, our ads are streaming there too.
Okay,
Yeah,
right. We're
Facebook,
streaming, right, yeah.
Twitter. I don't think we have anything on TikTok, but I could be wrong. Yeah, we're spending an incredible amount of money. Let me just put it that way. And those seem to be where we're getting the most responses from
Well, the
certain
younger
age groups.
generation,
Yeah.
especially.
I've noticed a huge, and I think you have too, a huge uptick in the last couple of weeks of being recognized from our commercials.
You go to a store, hey, I saw you on TV. I don't know who that person is. I shake their hand. Thank you very much. That's heartwarming. That's overwhelming.
Yeah, and it means that it's working and that people we're getting into, because we're the things that worked 10 years ago don't work now. I mean, I think everybody knows that. That's
Yeah.
so obvious. And
Except walking to a person's
Oh,
door
except
and
for
seeing 'em
walking.
personally.
That's
Yeah,
the most
that's
important
always working.
Thank you. That's true. But yeah, we're definitely, especially with the younger generation, we're noticing a huge uptick in people recognizing us. So yeah, great question. Social media.
Okay.
While somebody's thinking of their next question, I just want to say this has been so good. There's so many great questions. Thank you guys so much.
And I think the answers have been wonderful too, and really appreciate it.
On her screen, Claire, but it's actually not. It's Kathleen Nichols is here. So say hi, everybody. I'll add her to the spotlight, and she
Oh,
raised
there
her
you
hand, too.
go. Yeah, hello.
Yes, Claire, we're just all sharing the Claire sign in today. But Stacy, we're just so proud, and Keith, you too. But it is just so exciting for us to have you representing a district that, as Stacy knows, like I think the last time that I remember such great representation is when we had another father-daughter duo of
Yes.
Pete and Rebecca Rios. And so it's just super fun to have that connection, particularly of folks that are committed and to rural Arizona. And in that vein, I wanted to talk just a little bit about one other issue which you hadn't brought up, which is senior care. Because I know that that's a big issue. If you could just share a little bit about sort of what the issues for seniors are in rural Arizona.
Absolutely. Do you want me to?
You go.
Okay. Before I start, I actually want to just say for a moment, the support that I've gotten through Arizona List has just been unmatched. Both through Kathy and then Erica and Claire and everybody. It's just such a fabulous organization, and thank you so much for everything.
I wish I could be part of it, but
Yeah.
obviously I can't.
Not this time. But yeah, so senior care is something that is very dear to both my dad and my's heart. The last 20 years of her life, my grandma, my dad's mom, she lived in our house with us. I actually moved in with my parents to help take care of her. And we did so with some help here or there, but up until the last couple of months in her life, we managed to take care of her without needing to take her from our home and put her elsewhere. And it was, for me, the honor of my life to absolutely be able to help be part of that. And it was also incredibly challenging for all of us, especially as she got older. And what it helped me realize was the huge gaps that there are in our society for helping out with elder care and senior care. And some of those gaps are simply in rural communities like ours, where we don't have the resources to get seniors from point A to point B. We don't have a transportation, dedicated bus systems. So that's a huge one. Another one is especially getting them also on transportation. If they need to go to a specialist that we don't have in the area, how do you get them from, say, Arizona City or Casa Grande all the way up to like Mesa or Scottsdale? So those are big issues. Another issue is, of course, seniors being able to afford their medication. My mom had a health incident a year ago that was caused by mismanagement of anesthesia. And so as a result, she's on some very specialized medication. And she just went in to get that medication, and it had gone up from $100 a month to $600 a month with insurance and with no warning. And all of a sudden now we're scrambling trying to figure that out. And that is reprehensible. And these are just two stories taken, from, and you can hear our dog barking in the background, two stories just taken from one family. And so you take that and you multiply that thousands and thousands of times over Arizona. And we have what I would consider almost an unseen crisis that absolutely has to be dealt with. We've got people in our church that we know who try and find ways to get down to Mexico to buy their medicine because they can't afford it here, or get procedures. And I'm sure everybody on this call probably has stories like that. And I think very, very strongly that one of the very first things that needs to be dealt with when we flip the Senate and the legislature is starting to look at that crisis and how do we help the seniors in our districts.
I was very pleased to be invited early in the summer. And I'm afraid I don't remember the group notes, but I went to Tucson, matter of fact, to the Railroad Museum as far as a press conference. Myself and one of the doctors who's in charge of one of the departments medical at the university, and one who taught about the Biden and administration, how they brought medicines down. I was very proud they invited me to do that. And unfortunately, we didn't get much press on that. I'm also pleased to announce that one of the things I was able to do in the minority is to allocate $500,000 to a group in Eloy called CARA. It's a resource for senior citizens, anybody else for tax relief, for medicine, transportation. They're contracted by the DES. So I was able to get that done, as well as $500,000 to a veterans group here in town called HOHP, helping out hiring a professional. And that is going to allow them to get in Cooley, not very far from where we live here. They were donated like a hotel type building where they have rooms where veterans can come and get health care, get resources, and help them get a job. Now, not necessarily seniors, but a lot of them are. So I was very pleased to do that by being able to understand what's going on with the health care of our veterans and our seniors. So that has taken place recently too. So I'm very proud of those things. If I couldn't get my bills passed, at least I got those done.
Thanks for that really productive question, Kathy.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looks like Susie Anderson made an interjection there that you might want to. Oh, there she is. She just popped up.
What I wanted to say was it's also childcare. It's, it's the least of us. The Republicans talk about Christian values, and I'm at a loss to see where their Christian values are. We seem to care and work toward helping others, especially those, the immigrant community, trying to work to reduce the time prisoners have to be incarcerated, their health care, everybody's health care. Okay, what do we call ourselves if we can't use white Christians?
On that issue is we at the Democratic Caucus several times tried to get some information, some money, some bills on the K-3 education, which would be part of that, but they refused to listen. They barely gave enough money for the K-12 and for the college, but K-3 it was what was off the board. So that's one of the things we're going to work on again, because as educators, we understand the importance of healthcare and kindergartens and K-3 education. Because by the time they're in the third grade, they need to know how to read. A lot of them from some of our communities can't do that because they don't have kindergarten. So that's one of our priorities is the K-3 population, pre-K even population, exactly what you were talking about. They get in school, they get a free meal, which we're trying to work on. They get education and healthcare. That's one of the things that's important to us.
I'm going to also say, and this is going just a slightly away from politics for a moment, so I hope that you guys will forgive me. I hope that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
You were just speaking about Christianity, and that's something that's been really weighing on my heart a lot lately. My dad and I are both Christians. I was raised in a Christian household. I'm the organist and praise band leader at my church. And we're also both pro-choice. We both believe in absolute autonomy for women in their healthcare. And it has been, over the last few weeks, it has been a very interesting experience. I had a rather unpleasant moment at the door recently as I went to someone's door. It was an independent, and I opened the door and I said, "Hey, I'm Stacy Seaman." And the gentleman, the first words out of his mouth, he said, "I know who you are." He goes, "I've got a question for you." I guess he'd seen my commercials. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How can you call yourself a Christian if you're murdering babies?" I mean, that was the very first thing he said. And so as you can imagine, the conversation, we just kind of moved on. And, you know, what you talk about, Susie, is the exact point. You know, again, I know not everyone is Christian and they don't come to it from that viewpoint, but Jesus said, "What you do to the least of these, you do to me." And to me, the least of these is our seniors. It is the ones who are most vulnerable in our society, our seniors, our preschool kids, as you said, are those who are incarcerated, the people who are coming over our border looking for asylum. And my dad and I both believe that Christian values mean that we reach out and we help them. And I don't understand a form of Christianity that doesn't have that desire to love and help at the very center.
Hallelujah.
And I feel, you know, I feel very strongly about that. And sorry, not to get into a whole theological discussion, but thank you so much for your comments.
Well, and thank you for reinforcing that. Let's see, we have, Mike, some questions in the chat room?
No, just a lot of thanks. And it is now after 1 p.m. So we should probably let them go and get back to canvassing.
That's exactly.
Well, Mike, thanks so much as program director for recruiting a great 1-2 punch here in LD 16. And we're really rooting for you. And if you ever want to come back and recharge your battery, just, you know, sign in and we'd love to see how things are going. Everyone, thank you for a great meeting today. We had one of our largest rooms in a while. We got up to 26 folks. So, I love it. Love the graphics. Yeah, wonderful.
That kind of stuff.
So, thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Democrats of Greater Tucson, for being here as well.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Stacy and Keith. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Best of luck.
Hey everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. As all of you know, Arizona Democrats have had a lot of important wins over the last few years. We won 2 U.S. Senate races, and we delivered Arizona's electoral votes to President Biden and Vice President Harris. We elected Governor Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mays. Now, those elections were close, and our victories mattered. Arizona Democrats from the federal to the local level have delivered real results for our state on critical issues like combating climate change, lowering prescription drug costs, protecting the right to vote, and preventing more restrictions on abortion access. The Democrats of Greater Tucson offers the opportunity to hear from elected officials and candidates about that important work and the issues that matter to them. That information will be invaluable as Arizonans head to the polls. So this election cycle, whether you're signing up to knock doors, make phone calls, or joining the Democrats of Greater Tucson to hear from and speak to Democrats in our area, please know that your voice matters and we need you on this team. Thank you.